With a video on the support meta, and I was explaining some of the drastic shift I guess we've seen when it came to the support meta, and I bashed on Lily a little bit, and it made some people pretty mad. There were a lot of people that had comments to suggest why she is a great hero, and I'm not saying that she's terrible, but I believe I even made the statement. I don't think she's ever the right pick right now. Um, but a lot of people went to her win rate and was trying to justify, uh, rightfully so, to me that she is a viable hero because of her win rate, and she definitely is viable by all means. But my suggestion was that she is not ever the right pick, and I can kind of explain that a little bit. Honestly, it comes down to she doesn't have very many things that separate her from other supports, make her stand out above them, except for one feature, which we'll get to a little bit later in the video. But when it really comes down to it, she has no. Her healing numbers are good. They're not bad. She can't target where her healing goes, which is a huge problem. She has no actual cleanse. Her burst healing is split if the damage is split by her opponents, and she is the only, I believe, if not one of the few heroes, healers specifically, whose heroic can be interrupted. And that's mainly her key weakness as to why she is a not as powerful, I feel like, as a lot of people try to make her out to be. I feel like against competent players, you will almost never get a good jugs off unless it's in a very chokeholded area where you manage to have a boss frontline to peel for you. But in most situations, that won't be the case. But what she does that no other hero in the game does, she is forgiving. It is a huge selling point for her. She is so forgiving on everything she does, and I believe that's why you see such a spike in a win rate in her comparative to other people. We're looking at diamond rating right now. Overall, she's just dominating everything. Masters, even, she has the highest win rate. And she's doing a lot of things. And so the argument, I guess, could be made that if it's like how competent your opponent is, in Masters, they would be the most competent players, and so that Lily should see this drop in win rate. And honestly, I feel like that might be slightly true, but we also see skewed numbers overall. I feel like the Masters players are winning more overall with the poor matchmaking system, so we see her numbers be a little skewed. But also, the number one thing that she has going for her is her forgiving feature. She has got mobility whenever she takes damage, which allows her to escape 99% of the time. And then one of the things that's great about Hero League that you don't see in necessarily competitive play or in absolutely optimal play is focus fire. She's very easy to be killed when she is heavily focus fired and CC'd, but she also has no ability to keep somebody else who's being heavily focus fire except for an interruptible ult. She has no cleanse. Her healing is good, not targetable. And can't really withstand some of that burst healing like other healers can, and which is why you see why I make the statement that I think she is never the right pick. So I think that it comes down to she's never the right pick because she can't deal with those things which we see in competitive play, whereas in Hero League, for instance, that's not nearly as necessary, I guess, and because she is so forgiving, it's very hard to catch, and you don't see other people getting bursted down as quickly, she sees this high success rate, whereas it's not so much in competitive play. And that's why I made this statement. But then I also came to realize this goes for a lot of heroes across the board. Lily's no exception to this type of situation, and it comes down to, even though I still hold the statement that I never think she is the right pick in support, and that's not making her a bad pick, just never the 100% most optimal and played perfectly. Other healers are able to do better than her, but then also you see a lot of the win rates of the top heroes in all of Hero League right now are heroes that are either forgiving or hard to deal with when not working as an organized group. And it shows where a lot of my views and the information that I give to you guys that I learned through playing the game on a competitive level in Hero League like you guys do is seeing this form of coordination and the effect that it has on like the pro meta versus the Hero League meta. And examples of that are like we have the Lost Vikings is the highest win rate. You see very little Lost Vikings, only on specific maps, specific teams, and unique situations do you see that on competitive play. Lily, you almost see none of. Nazebo, you see a bit at times. He's kind of fallen out of the meta in the current time, but you did see him for a while. He's still a solid pick. But Raynor is a great pick as well. That's another one that I'm not too surprised to see up there. And then Murky, character you see very little of in pro play, and that's the top 5 heroes. They're either almost never played in the pro scene, for good reason, or they have moments in the meta, everything else. But all these heroes, when you think about them, are very hard to deal with. The Lost Vikings Soak, if you don't know how to deal with that appropriately, can easily blow a game out of almost unobtainable. 3-level lead very quick if you don't win in the 4v4 situation, or 4 vs 5 if your team's working together. If you don't win that, you will snowball the game so hard in your favor. Lili, extremely forgiving. Nazebo, because of the lack of focus fire that exists in teamfights, they usually last for a long period of time. You see him getting a lot of value out of his poke, out of his spread damage, and a lot of healers aren't able to keep up with him except for Malfurion when it comes out to just raw damage output. And because of that, you see him having higher success rate. Raynor is just a guy who, if you don't get on, exactly like Lili, he will just do so much damage. Like, if you don't get on these characters and heavy focus fire, chain CC, and dominate them, they will have a lot of success. Granted, he's one of the few exceptions out of this top 5. He is just actually a genuinely good character compared to the rest here. And then we have Murky, who is another character who in competitive play sees little success because he is easy to play around. And if you work properly as a team, take your small victories, walk away from them, you will snowball the game very much in your favor. And then when we look the other way, at the bottom half, we have 5 more heroes who are some are actually heavily valued in the competitive scene, whereas they see little to no success in the Hero League. So we have Abathur as one of the highest contested characters in the game right now in the competitive scene, especially on larger maps, along with Illidan as well, working those two together. You see that a lot in the Asian scene, specifically with like teams from China. Lieutenant Morales is an exception here. She's not really seeing that much contention in competitive play. Stitches, huge contention on the upper level of play, not seen in every game, but definitely something to consider in almost every comp. And we have Tassadar, who right now is almost always banned. He is he'll never make it through the draft. Well, I want to say never, but he almost never will in competitive play. And so we see this shift in when I project, like, I guess, information to you guys versus, like, it's coming from 2 different areas. And so to realize, like, that these heroes are great heroes, and a lot of them are great heroes at least, and a lot of these up here are considered on the weaker end in competitive level, it doesn't mean that they aren't, that this is their true value, I guess is my purpose here, is that a lot of people try to use win rates as an absolute justification of the success of a hero. And that is, or how good, I guess, the hero is, not so much the success, because that would be an accurate representation, more so how good the hero is overall. Like, you aren't going to be like sitting there and just be like, oh, I got to figure this out. Gonna play a game, which heroes are the best in the game, and then use this as an accurate rating of who's the best and who's the worst. They all obviously have situations where they're viable and everything else, but for the most part, you cannot use this as a direct translation to how good the character is. And so my reasoning behind why Lili is not the god that the Hero League makes her out to be is because she is very easy and susceptible to high focus, chain CC, and burst damage, and she doesn't do anything to be able to answer that like other healers can, largely with a lack of cleanse, nothing like a divine shield or a divine palm in order to keep the target alive, ancestral healing, and then she has no hard CC of her own. She does have a blind in order to be a defensive tool, but that's not necessarily the most effective in most type of compositions, because usually casters are heavily dominated in the meta right now as well. And so ultimately, yeah, it's just all these characters are good and have a place, but we should try to avoid using win rates as an absolute answer to how good the hero is.
Don't waste it on something if, like, an objective is spawning in 5 seconds, like a pants on head idiot, but don't cherish it like a newborn baby bird either.